it can be a very lonely place being in your own head all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
And so getting that out, I think, is incredibly healthy. You know, the Are You OK Day group, the people behind that, they put a lot of thought-provoking posts out on LinkedIn. I often make a lot of parallels between the messages they send and career coaching or executive coaching.
Are you feeling lost in your career, or you want to have a greater impact but you don't know where to start? Welcome to Kinda Plan, the podcast where we help you unlock the opportunities that you can't plan for. Through engaging conversations with expert guests, we help you unlock the mindsets, strategies, and tools that you need to build the career of your dreams. So subscribe so you never miss an episode. I'm your host, Alex Cuttiford, and let's take a moment to unlock your next opportunity. Well, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Brand My Career podcast. Joined by Rob today. We've been working hard at getting this episode together and out to everyone. Of course, storms and internet and things have tried to stand in our way, but we're here this morning to have a great conversation and hear from Rob about his career, his journey into career coaching. And so Rob, thanks for joining me.
Thanks heaps, Alex. And I am so incredibly relieved and over the moon that this is actually going ahead. I don't know what number or what version this is, what go around the roundabout, but yeah, we've made it happen. And let me just say, we're going to talk about all sorts of things today, and career and jobs, life maybe. But the thing that sticks out to me is this idea of perseverance. You have been persevering. I've joined you on that crusade of persevering, and I think perseverance, if anything, is maybe one of, if not the most important quality, I think, with all this sort of stuff, is just to keep this idea of keep going. And I think you said to me, I don't know whether it was the fourth attempt or the fifth, so thank you for keeping the whole train on the tracks. You said to me, we're not going to stop now. We're not going to give up. We've got to get this over the line. And, I'm making light of it, and I think it is a humorous bit of an anecdote to share. But at the same time, how easy would it have been for you or I to just say, you know what, let's put this off. Maybe we'll talk another time. And, that may never happen. So thanks for keep on keeping on.
Yeah, absolutely. No, a pleasure. I love bringing these conversations to people. So yeah, it's definitely worthwhile to stick with it. So do we want to launch in? Do you want to share a bit about your career journey and what's brought you to becoming a career coach?
Yes. Okay. So I'll do my best to give you the short version, the high level short version, as they like to say. So I spent the better part of close to 2 decades in HR in various shapes or forms, HR advisory roles and management positions as well. And, at the point, probably about 3 or 4 years ago, when I was doing some soul searching and asking myself questions around my own career and what I want to achieve, but also what I want to contribute long term, I reached this stage of just having this question mark above my left shoulder. I was really, really toying and playing with what the future might hold, and for my own career journey. And so I thought to myself, well, I do love what I do. How can I do more of it? And so, yes, I've been in HR, and when I say HR, my experience has been quite broad. So if you think of the employee or employment life cycle, I've pretty much touched on all areas of those, from the recruiting all the way through to onboarding, performance, learning and development, training and development, leadership development, and then all the way through to offboarding and outplacement. And I love HR. I can't say that enough. I do, though, tend to align myself more with some of those areas than others. And so, as I was thinking about my own career a few years back, I realized that the thing that really, wakes me up in the morning, energizes me the most, and really the work that I love to do the most is whenever I'm one-on-one with, whether it be a colleague, a manager, a senior leader with a business, whatever the case may be, whatever the context, this incredible opportunity to shut the door back when we were in the office pre-COVID, and obviously now things are going back to that to some extent. But shut the door and kind of have some space, make room, some breathing space to really work out how to solve a challenge, or how to best deal with a personnel issue, or whatever the case may be, right? And so it always kept coming back to that. I had this idea. Yes, I've been in HR for going on 20 years, but what is it that lights me up the most? And it was those one-on-one interactions where I had the ability to play the role of a sounding board, spend a lot of time listening, allow people to bounce ideas off of me, and occasionally smatter in a few of my own thoughts and recommendations and suggestions, but just getting close to people and really working out what's what and seeing if I can do my part in whatever it is that we were working on, with one eye on how do we get a good outcome in whatever the situation was. I can go into countless examples, and maybe we can touch on some of that a little later. But that's kind of my background. And so, so anyway, I said I was going to keep this short, and famously, it's going it's going overtime. I was exiting the business on great terms, but exiting the business nevertheless. And it gave me, that really forced that process of soul searching and trying to work out what's next. And I took some significant time off. We welcomed the birth of another child. We had some family things going on, all sorts of. So it was a good time for me anyway. Just happened to be quite great timing. And I came out of that really not knowing what I was going to do next. And I have to thank, there's a coach that I had, an executive coach, as part of my outplacement program. And this was with the outplacement provider that we had dealt with for years, right? Under a different context. And all of a sudden now I'm going through an outplacement program. We ummed and ahed, and there's all sorts of ideas that I had. Broadcasting was one, podcasting was another, funnily enough. Worked out that wasn't going to be a very lucrative career. Although I still think I might want to dip my toes back into it. But the point being that I came to the end of that program and really wasn't sure what I wanted to do next. And it was on my final call with an executive coach as part of this outplacement program, where I was looking, kind of like you and I are having this conversation now, actual Zoom call. And I was looking at her, and she asked me, Rob, what are you going to do? And I don't know. Am I still here, Alex?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because it's my screen is saying it's reconnecting and all this sort of stuff. So,
it just sort of says.
Okay. I've changed to mobile internet now, so let's just hope for the best. Am I still here?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I was looking at, I was speaking with this really, really great executive coach. She asked me, she said, this on our last call, what are you going to do next? Because we were umming and ahhing about all sorts of ideas, and she was giving me great suggestions. I didn't know what. And then with 15 minutes left to go on the call, I just looking her straight in the face, and I said, you know what, Wendy, I think I might want to do what you do. So it was kind of interesting, how it all panned out. I saw a lot of what she offered, and she was a great listener, gave me space to think, provided suggestions when necessary. But it was quite remarkable, because for all the times that I had played that role in my career, I only had a few of those examples in my own life. And here was another one. Here was a great moment where, just by the fact that we were having a conversation, something came out of that. And I thought, all right, I would like to explore the path that you're on as an executive coach and a career coach. And so I said short and sweet. It took a little longer, but this is a condensed version of what was actually more than a year's worth of thinking and analysis and dipping my toe in and out of different things. So there.
Yeah, no, really, really powerful, and totally makes sense to me. So I've just been doing some career coaching myself, and as in receiving it. And the thing that has struck me most about it is just I'm experiencing these sessions, and I'm going, I don't think anyone has held space for me like this. Like, and there's someone that really holds that space, allows you to flesh out your thoughts and putting out all these ideas that you know in your mind aren't fully formed yet, but they're just happy to keep taking that in, keep asking the questions that help you sort of keep bringing those pieces together. And so, yeah, it's really a really powerful thing. And in the back of my mind in doing it was as well the fact that I was like, part of me wanting to do this is because it's something I see myself doing, and I'm like, I just want to experience it, you know. Um, so yeah, no, totally understand where you're coming from in that space and why it would have stood out and resonated to you.
Well, I mean, holding space is a great turn of phrase because at its best, I think whether it's career coaching, executive coaching, or simply lending a friend an ear or a family member or an ear, holding space is something that I've become very fascinated with and almost obsessed with in recent times, purely because I've just, as you've articulated, it, it happens so infrequently, generally speaking. It's an infrequent sort of thing. It's not until there's some sort of impetus that drives one person, or in some cases, almost pushes or forces someone to end up in a situation. I think of the psychologist's couch, for example. Usually you don't end up on the couch unless you really have something to discuss, and that means that something's happened in your life, or you've experienced something that needs discussion or dissecting or whatever it is. But it also brings up this other idea of examination, and it's not an examination, but there's room within even the conversation you and I are having to examine all sorts of things. Examine aspects of whatever it is we speak about. And I can't remember who the philosopher is now, but you may have heard of this quote: "The unexamined life is not worth living."
Mm.
And this sort of examination, this ability to hold space, to allow someone the room to think, and it's also a safe space. That's a really important thing to say. I mean, it can conjure up all sorts of strange ideas, but for some. But I think it really is important to have trust, to create a kind of like this cone of, they say cone of silence, but this is like a cone of trust, usually built out of rapport, I think, as well, and an understanding that the other person that you're speaking with has your interests at heart and is giving you all of themselves so that you can really work on yourself or work towards whatever it is that the task at hand.
Mm.
So it can be incredibly powerful. Yeah, you're gonna have to stop me, otherwise I'll ramble about
No,
how much I
no,
love it.
this is good. It's a good comment because I was just thinking, like, for me, like I've done counselling sessions before, and then I was thinking about it after my last session. I was like that was better than a therapy session because I think you're naturally in the career development space, even when you might be dealing with a situation that isn't ideal. But I just feel there's something about it that lends itself towards looking towards the opportunity rather than looking at the problem. And it's just something about it. It's like you don't ignore the problem, you don't shy away from it, but there's just something about the nature of it that draws you then to where are we going and how where do you want to go and this place of looking forward now at your life and what you want to make it. And
Mm,
yeah, it's a really powerful space to be in when you've got the right person guiding you in that space.
yeah, and I don't know about you, but I can often get bogged down in my own thoughts and spend a lot of
Mm.
time in my own head space, my own echo chamber, and I get the sense sometimes that it's not working well for me. You can get into a loop or a spiral or what. We're human, and everyone's got their own tendencies. And I think another brilliant aspect of whether it's career coaching, executive coaching, or simply having a chat with someone, simply having a chat with a good friend, can and often does allow for all the things we said: exploration, exchange of ideas, but also the ability to hear yourself think in a way, out loud, without judgment. And that's why it's important, as you said, to find someone that you can trust with and that fits well with you and gels with you. But, it can be a very lonely place being in your own head all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so getting that out, I think, is incredibly healthy. The Are You OK Day group and mob and all those people, the people behind that, they put a lot of thought-provoking posts out on LinkedIn and a lot of their marketing materials. And I often make a lot of parallels between the messages they send and career coaching or executive coaching. There's a lot of concepts that cross over, and often giving space can be so powerful. It makes me want to get on a call now, and because it's great for me. Just giving someone my time and my energy and my full focus feels incredibly rewarding. And I think that's the selfish kind of aspect of the work.
Yeah. I think about it in that action brings clarity and clarity brings confidence. And often that first action is just talk through your idea with someone else and stop running it through your head in circles. Can bring so much clarity. And then that clarity brings that person confidence to go, this is the next step that I need to do. Keen to jump into, I guess, hearing more about who you work with and why people often would come to you for career coaching.
So who I work with, I say, executives. I really work in the professional space by and large. Most of my clients or participants, if we can use that term, because it is a two-way street. You don't have to be here kind of thing. It's very much a case of someone reaching out or needing the support and guidance at the time that they need it. Most of it is from the backgrounds of the people that I work with tend to be in corporate roles of one shape or form or another, across virtually all industries, although I tend to focus mainly on the private sector, more by happenstance, and that word will probably come up again in a different context. But so it could be, a product manager in a marketing team. It could be a marketing manager or a marketing director in that same team. It could be a salesperson. It could be an IT expert, an engineer. Not too long ago, I had someone from the media space, like an audio producer. And so, all over the place. But to answer the second part, when or why do people come to me? Most recently, it's been as a result of the fact that they're looking for work. And typically it's because of redundancy or restructure. Sometimes by choice. I do occasionally speak to people who have one foot out the door, or are looking at making a career change or even a sea change. But typically it's people who are looking to land their next role and are struggling to do so in the time frame that they thought they would. So that's probably 80 to 90% of my work most recently. There's just a lot of demand out there for that. I do also do some career development work, though. It's a smaller part of what I currently do, but it's hard to predict, but I would like to do more of that. I really enjoy that. And that's, career development, career management. Those terms can be interchangeable at times, but working with individuals on tinkering with and improving aspects of their own careers. And that's, again, where the sounding board and the think tank or think space comes into play.
Yeah. And what are the common emotions or challenges that someone's feeling and experiencing when they're going through that, when they're in that moment of transition, or they've lost their job, or they're looking for the next thing? What's the common challenges and emotions happening there?
Those two words or topics, challenges and emotions, are definitely interrelated. In saying that, I would break those two up just for the sake of the conversation. So I do think challenges and emotions are distinct in some respect. So from a challenge perspective, to start off with, there are plenty of challenges. Everything from, I'm not going to say low-hanging fruit, but anything from the fundamentals, which is pulling out your old resume, blowing the dust off it, and really rigorously going through it and working out whether it's a document that best represents you professionally. Doing the same for your LinkedIn profile, all the way through to creating a branding statement, working on articulating your professional brand and your professional offer. I'm on Brand My Career. I almost forgot. I mean, this is probably speaks to you and your audience, I would assume. But yeah, so we do a little bit of work around that because those are challenges. Often not being able to articulate what you can offer an organization is a point of confusion for the individual. Like you said, I can't remember the exact sequence, but action leads to
Clarity
something else,
to
or clarity
confidence.
leads. Yeah. So that is in effect what is often actually a challenge, to first clarify and then act out whatever you need to. But also confidence. Funnily enough, you said that. That's a great segue. Confidence is a big challenge for people. And I find that the longer someone has been out of the interviewing game, if I can use that term, there seems to be a correlation. This isn't science, so don't, no emails, please. But I tend to see a correlation between the length of time someone spends working in one organization, leaving that organization and then being out on the job market and having a, let's say, low to moderate level of confidence. It just seems to, I see it more often than not. And I think it's just purely a case of practice. It's like you haven't been on the bike. And so someone throws that, you see the bike and you think, well, yeah, I know I can ride a bike, but you get on and it's a little bit rusty. It takes a little time for the gears to click in. And I often also notice that it doesn't take a huge amount of work to build up that confidence, but it can take quite a bit of time. So in other words, it's not necessarily that it's so difficult, but you need to get your reps in. So I often do interview coaching, mock interviews, interview prep, all this sort of stuff. And a lot of it is about getting your reps in.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get your reps in when you're doing it yourself. There are ways you can record yourself on video and watch it back, but there's nothing like having someone push your buttons in a mock interview situation as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like I haven't really even attempted to do like a solo podcast. I'm like, I'd much rather talk to an actual person, try and doing like just to talk to the microphone in a dark room by myself. I just think would be a lot harder than getting to sit down and just have a chat with someone. So yeah. And definitely it resonates, right? Like people that have been in a job for a long time, they haven't had to job search for ages. And you step out of that and you all of a sudden you're looking at the world and it's like you feel like everything has changed. And then it's like, actually, the bike's just red instead of green now. Like it looks really different, but actually a lot of the core principles probably haven't changed as much. You just got to try and understand the new mechanisms that might be in place. You've got to email through your resume or submit it through Seek now instead of walking into a place and dropping it off on the counter. But
yes.
The things that they're looking on that resume are probably all pretty similar, and you probably know the information you need to get on there. This feels like you think you're missing something, but you're probably not. Or maybe you are and you just need someone to fill in a few little gaps and help you get it all together in one place.
All of that, I would say all of that and then some. Yeah, it could be any of that, all of that, and then some. So it's all, the answer to everything is it depends, right? So that would be my answer. It just depends on so many factors. And if I think about the work that I do from a third person perspective, because of my transition from HR into career development and career transition work, I bring a lot of those, whatever I learned during that time to this new endeavor, relatively new, but it's it's funny how quickly I've been able to jump on the saddle and get things going on the one hand, but on the other hand, I am learning on a daily basis. It's a huge area of exploration. You think to yourself, well, surely I know the ins and outs of the job market and the hiring process. I've conducted, I can't remember what the count was, but definitely hundreds of hiring interviews over my years, and as in being on a panel or leading an interview. And there's a sense of confidence that I have because I did put the hours in and I did that work. And then I look deeper, I investigate deeper into this career landscape, and there's so much more to discover. And so I think to myself, if I'm learning at such a rapid pace and there's so much still to learn, and I don't think, my intuition tells me I'll never, I'll certainly never know it all, but I can't see the top of the mountain from, it's a huge area.
Yeah.
Then what? Yeah.
Even when you then start looking at like the historical foundations that shape all of like the world of work, that's something that I've been thinking about a bit recently, and some of the stuff that I've been reading, and this, the systems that we know and are used to today, are rooted in all these different Morpheuses of different theories and structures and society values and all this stuff over centuries that keep rolling and changing and regurgitating and morphing, or then something rising up out of the blue and completely changing the whole system and stuff. And so then when all of a sudden you're sitting there and we're thinking about career development in today's context, there's just all of these layers that underpin it as well that might have remnants still existing that we don't realize that's where it's come from. Yeah.
Yeah. And unturning that rock or becoming aware of some of the things that you're talking about can be really illuminating as well. Like for me, when I completed my grad cert in career development practice, one of the things that I spent most of my time on was reading about career development theories. And I know you and I have spoken a little bit about how deep we want to get into career development theories, but I feel like I have to at least name drop this one because it feeds almost directly into what you just said. There's it's referred to as a theory, but it is more of a framework, and it's called the Holistic Systems Theory by McMahon and Patton, for anyone that wants to research it more. But it really is more of a framework, and it is a framework that describes or presents careers and career development as an incredibly dynamic phenomenon. It's incredibly diverse. There are so many influences and factors that come into play. As you said, change over time. Even things like chance. Chance can be a huge factor, but you can't necessarily create chance in and of itself. Although you can put yourself in positions where there might be a higher likelihood that chance events or chance encounters could play a big part, sometimes a life-changing part in whatever journey you're on as well. So, yes, and this is where so many strands or parts we could go down, but there's this one really interesting one that I think is what was worthwhile telling. Often, parents love their kids, and thanks, Rob. What a brilliant comment to make. So obvious, but one of the things that comes with that is an unconditional love. And so when your 5-year-old is singing you a song, and then they might happen to ask you if you like it, it's probably within the realms of reason that you will you'll be optimistic about the performance that they've just put on.
Embellish.
Yeah, you might even embellish how wonderful of a voice they have, right? And I think that's lovely, and I do that myself as a parent, and it's beautiful. And I don't want to get too far down that tangent, but the the thing that I want to extract out of this example is, 20 or 30 years down the line, when that same person is standing in an Australian Idol audition queue, and then they go out on the stage and the real judges provide some feedback and it's completely out of whack with what the 5-year-old version of that person heard, then, I think that says something. And life is very much like that. We hear things about ourselves from a very young age. We build identities around who we are, who we think we are. And this kind of stuff can get very in-depth and granular. I'll avoid that for the time being, other than to say, all advice is good advice. Some people think. I tend to think that I would put much more stock into and much more weight on any advice that I'm given if the person giving the advice has walked that walk, lived a little in that world, right? So if someone tells me, I don't mind belting out some Sinatra in the shower occasionally.
Yeah.
But
I'll tell you what, my wife doesn't leave me in any illusion as to how bad my singing is.
And this is the thing, right? I mean, you might have a brilliant voice and she might not recognize it. But if she was but if she was a vocal coach, let's say a professional vocal coach, and people were paying her for that opinion, you might have to, Alex, I hate to say this, but if she was a vocal coach, you might have to put a little bit.
This isn't stacking up well for me.
This is not what we had in mind. I know, but the point being is that always have your eyes and ears open, but pay attention close. I tend to say pay attention closer to the person who's lived a little in the world. So coming back to career coaching with a quick tangent into the tennis world, as I do this, I kind of scatter around occasionally. If you're playing a tennis match, or if you want to become a better tennis player, let's say you wanted to become a better tennis player. I don't know if you play tennis or not.
My knees give way on me too easily.
Okay, so prior to when those knees were still, in their prime, and I have some knee issues as well, funnily enough, so let's not go into that. If you want to improve your tennis, you could hit a tennis ball against a wall 10 hours a day. You could do that. You could speak to someone who coaches tennis. They might tell you something about the game and maybe what you could do differently. You could play a tennis match with your friend or with another person. You could do all those things, and some of them will have value. I would hazard a guess that one of the things that might give you the most value is going out on the court, after you've done all that maybe, having a hit with a friend or with another person, but having someone watch you play tennis, sitting in that umpire chair bit in the middle, and just having a look at both of you and just observing, not saying anything. So have a hit, go for a tennis game or match for an hour. And then at the end of that, while you're wiping the sweat down and holding your right knee,
yeah,
and all this sort of stuff, ask that person what they saw, what they noticed. Did anything come to mind? Are there any mistakes that I'm making? Are there? And if it's just a mate who is a casual tennis observer, they'll give you some feedback, and it might prove useful. Now, imagine if Federer's coach, or Djokovic's coach, or Nadal's coach, or Serena Williams' coach. Serena Williams has got arguably the greatest coach in the world. I forget his name, a Frenchman. Now imagine if that person was sitting there, a coach, someone who does this night and day, and thinks about this during the night and works on it during the day, right? Someone who's in that world. What could they possibly offer you? It might be a throwaway line that you then take home, think about, and completely, radically changes your game from that point on. And so going back to whether it's career coaching or business coaching or executive coaching or even counseling, this is why I really love I love the topic, but I love this work. It's the ability to be an observer and notice people and give them not only holding space and the opportunity to get their thoughts out in the open, but occasionally provide some feedback about what you've observed, and then just drop a little hint here or there, ask a question here or there, and those are those moments. I call them the moment when the little hinge swings a big door. Sometimes the smallest, seemingly smallest unlocks can turn into the biggest moments of transformation. I don't know how we got into that, but that's
No,
yeah.
that was a really good tangent. It really stood out to me because you talked about how we can't create our own chance, but we sort of can. And the thing that's always stood out to me, and it's why I use the language "take ownership of your career" and not take control, because there are so many aspects of our career that we can't control, but we can then take action based on the different things that are presenting themselves and take responsibility in how we're going to then move forward through them. And it's when we're engaged in that process that suddenly, and this is why half the people that I've interviewed have been made redundant, and now they're doing something completely different and really cool and more aligned with what they want to do, because something happened, but they took responsibility for how they're going to handle it, and then they've been able to create all kind of opportunities for themselves. And I was on a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about what my goals were for the podcast and stuff, and I was like, look, I hold it in a pretty open hand as to what will come out of it. I just know that, one, I'm passionate about it and I enjoy having the conversations. But I knew just by doing it, it would create different opportunities that will present themselves. And I can pick and choose if it's something that I want to pursue, if it's something I let go past. And then I've had recently, had speaking opportunities come up. It's off the back of someone found a podcast, liked it, they're in the space, and got an invite to speak. And I'm like, yeah, sweet, I'm going to jump at that. And it's not that I started the podcast with the hardline goal of I want to be getting speaking engagements, within a year. I definitely thought, this is that's one of the areas that it could potentially take me, but open to letting things unfold and assessing. And that's why having a career coach that's there helping you really get clear on what are my values, what are the really core things driving me, so that then that is the thing that you can weigh up all the different opportunities that come. And the other thing that I've often thought is around what came first, the growth mindset or the opportunity. And so when you're in a growth mindset and you're learning and growing and looking, you then all of a sudden see all these different things. And it kind of feels like, and you often feel like, oh man, mindset work, this unlocks everything. Those opportunities were there. You just weren't seeing them. And so, yeah, it's this funny thing. It's like you're not, but then you can't get so far down that track that you think you now can control every outcome that's going to happen, just based on your mindset. No, it's just your mindset's going to help you navigate all the different things that come your way. So, yeah, no, really, really great conversation. I've enjoyed having you on, Rob. How can people find you if they want to work with you?
Well, they could reach out to me on LinkedIn. So it's Rob Slawik, spelled Slawik, or go to careerjourneyproject.com and have a read, have a squiz through there. And yeah, just reach out to me, send me a note, or book a session if you'd like. But yeah, it's been nice speaking to you. It's incredible that this occurred. I still can't get over it. I'm going to pinch myself to just, confirm that this is actually not a dream, Alex, and it's actually the technology has kept up. The other thing I'll say just in closing is that good job on the podcast, good job on the show, because it's not as simple thing as someone who has podcasted in the past. A lot of time and effort and energy, blood, sweat, and tears goes into this, and not just when the tech doesn't play up. I know that it's a lot of work, and so I'm happy that things have come together, continuing to grow for you. So great stuff. 2 thumbs up, and I'm going to keep listening. And yeah, I'm keen to know who else is coming down the pike on your guest list. And if you ever want to go into any of these topics any deeper, let me know, because I'll just say mindset is I didn't really cover this earlier, but mindset is really an area of interest for me, and it comes up constantly. You know, we could have had a half an hour chat or a 1 hour chat just about mindset in general, but then definitely in the context of a career, and the mindset of a job searcher. Those are big things, you know. There's a lot of emotional, there are many factors at play, and the emotional aspect is a huge one. And so what I say to anyone, you know, you can even put career coaching or coaching to the side. Don't be afraid to get on the phone or send a text or an email or reach out to someone, anyone, if you feel like you're in a state of mind that could really use some help. You know, don't be afraid to reach out for help, because I know times can get tough. I hear of people who are looking month after month after month, and then in some cases 6-12 months fly by, and it can be a very lonely and a very tough place psychologically, emotionally to be. So I guess in closing, you know, there are people out there. Reach out.
Absolutely.
You know, we will listen. We will support where we can. You know, don't be a stranger. Make sure you put in a call if you can muster the energy. And yeah, there are people out there for you. So just the last message for anyone listening.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, it looks like we'll have to look at an episode 2 at some point down the track. But yeah, thanks so much for being on, and it's been really good.
Awesome.
Yeah, all the best.
Cool. Cheers, you too.
Thanks for tuning in to Kinda Planned. Subscribe and send this episode to a friend that you think needs to hear it. Or head to my website, www.kindaplan.com.au for free resources. Or follow me on LinkedIn and socials so that we can keep the conversation going. Now go unlock your next opportunity.